I have been asked to speak to you very briefly for not more than 10 minutes on three very important legal issues that you are likely to encounter in the course of your medical practice. Ordinarily, in order to do justice to these issues, I would necessarily take 1 hour per each of the subtopics. And therefore, after detailed negotiations with the organizers, I was able to extract 20 minutes for all three, and I will try my level best to stick to the time allocated. So we have three issues. Death of a patient either during or immediately after treatment by a medical practitioner. Allegation of medical negligence being leveled against the practitioner for acts done or omissions during or immediately after treatment sessions. And thirdly, allegations of sexual harassment to the patient by the medical practitioner. We have a very important piece of legislation that governs procedure in our criminal justice system, and that is referred to as the Code of Criminal Procedure Act. Section 21B of this code imposes not a mere moral obligation, not even a mere civic obligation, but a legal obligation to all and sundry, to everybody, not only medical practitioners, but to everybody who receives information or sees either a sudden or an unnatural death, a death due to or arising out of violence, deaths due to suspicious circumstances, finding of a dead body without the apparent cause of death being apparent. Now, in those circumstances, those who either witness that event or receives information regarding the event is required in terms of this law to provide information regarding the death or the finding of the body to either a magistrate's court, to the officer in charge of the nearest police station, to a Grama Sevaka, or to a category of persons referred to as peace officers, which would include both Grama Sevakas as well as assistant government agents to whom police powers have been conferred. In real practice, the information has to be provided to the officer in charge of the nearest police station. And therefore, if a patient dies either within your clinic or the body of an already dead person is brought to your clinic, you have a statutory obligation, a legal obligation to provide information regarding that death to the officer in charge of the nearest police station. Not fulfilling this requirement is also an offence for which you could be punished. There may be instances where persons who brought the dead body or accompanying persons of the patient who died in your custody may undertake to fulfill this obligation. That will not necessarily exempt you from this responsibility. And therefore, it is your statutory duty to provide information regarding the death to the officer in charge of the nearest police station. Now, there is also a system in our law, once again found in the Code of Criminal Procedure, for the conduct of an inquest, either by an inquirer into a sudden death, who is generally known as a coroner, or by a magistrate into the circumstances relating to this death, a sudden unnatural death, a death due to violence, or a death where the circumstances pertaining to the death is not apparent on the face of the situation. So our law requires the conduct of an inquest, and it is to facilitate that inquest that you have been cast this statutory obligation of informing the police regarding this sudden death. Now, during the course of such an inquest conducted by either a magistrate or by an inquirer into sudden deaths known as a coroner, it is the general practice, though not mandatory, that the inquirer orders the conduct of a post-mortem examination by a competent medical practitioner. One would expect the post-mortem to be conducted by a forensic medical specialist or a forensic pathologist. Nevertheless, due to the paucity of the availability of specialists in that field of medicine, the law enables even a routine medical practitioner to be given that task of conducting the post-mortem examination. It is important to note that the conduct of such a post-mortem examination is not a mandatory requirement in an inquest. During the course of the inquiry component of this inquest, oral evidence will be received, and it is likely that your evidence would also be received, your oral evidence would be received by the coroner or the magistrate, as the case may be. Now, the purpose for which this inquest is conducted is not to identify scientific details relating to the death, though that is invariably a component of the findings. The primary objective of the conduct of an inquest is to determine the apparent cause of death. The apparent cause of death relating to the deceased. Now, parallel to this process of either a coronial inquest or a magisterial inquest, if it transpires to the police that there are reasonable grounds to believe that an offense has been committed and that the deceased died as a result of that offense, then parallel to this process, the police will conduct a criminal investigation. Such a criminal investigation would also have embedded in it a detailed forensic investigation, which in all probability will be conducted by a specialist forensic pathologist. So, parallel to the coronial inquest conducted by a coroner simpliciter or a magistrate functioning as a coroner, the criminal justice process will be initiated. And the first step in a criminal justice process or a criminal justice response to this sudden death would be the conduct of a criminal and forensic investigation. One objective of that investigation is to identify whether, in fact, the deceased had died as a result of an offense being committed, such as murder, but not limited to murder. The second objective of the criminal investigation is to identify who the perpetrator of that crime had been. The third objective would be to locate the perpetrator of the crime and apprehend him. And that is what is meant by arresting the person responsible or arresting the suspect. At a particular stage following the arrest of the suspect or the perpetrator of the crime, criminal proceedings will be initiated in the magistrate's court against this person who has been taken into police custody. It is at the end of the criminal investigation that in most instances we in the Attorney General's Department are called upon to consider in detail the criminal and forensic investigational findings and determine whether a criminal case should be filed against the suspect. And that is referred to as technically the institution of criminal proceedings against the suspect. So this is basically the sequence of events that one would expect whenever it is suspected that the deceased had died as a result of an offence having been committed. We will now briefly proceed to the second area, and you will realize that at some stage we get back to the first situation as well. Allegations of medical negligence during and immediately after treatment. This is basically the technical definition of medical professional negligence, a situation where either a medical professional proper or a healthcare giver is said to have been negligent at a time when he had a patient-doctor relationship, either arising out of a general duty of care towards all those who seek your services, or where a specific patient-doctor contractual relationship exists. Now, whenever a patient comes to you and obtains your services for a fee, there is a patient-doctor contractual relationship that arises. Whenever a citizen were to seek medical assistance or treatment from the state health service, there is actually no patient-doctor contract, but there is a general duty of care recognized by law from the medical sector towards the patient. Now, in such a situation, both in the state and the private sector, if the doctor or the healthcare giver breaches the required degree of duty of care, either by an act which could be either rash or negligent, or an act that falls short of peer expectations, the expectable degree of professional medical care as judged by your peers, there could be an allegation of medical negligence, particularly where that failure on your part or your rash conduct or your unprofessional response to the situation has given rise to any loss, damage or impairment, which could even include the death of the patient. Now, medical negligence, ladies and gentlemen, is known in our law as an actionable wrong. What it really means is that the person aggrieved or affected by the alleged instance of medical negligence can sue the relevant medical professional and claim damages and or compensation. It's known as an actionable wrong, and therefore, generally in instances of medical negligence, the state has no role to play. The state will not consider effecting a criminal justice response in the nature of what I referred to earlier, such as conducting a criminal investigation by the police, causing a forensic investigation, identifying and arresting the wrong party, producing him before a magistrate's court, etc. So the state, we really don't have a role to play in general instances of medical negligence. However, if the degree of negligence or rashness complained by the affected party or the next of kin is very high, something which we refer to as gross negligence or rashness, and if that gross incident of negligence or rashness resulted in the death of the patient, it amounts to a criminal offence. The relevant offence is found in section 298 of the Penal Code. Now, since it is a criminal offence, this gross incident of negligence or rashness which led to the death of the patient, since it is recognized as an offence and not a mere actionable wrong, we in the state have a duty of giving effect to a criminal justice response. And this is why in such instances you find the police carrying out a criminal investigation, causing a forensic investigation to be conducted, the allegedly responsible person being identified, arrested, produced before magistrate, in some instances being kept in remand custody, and finally the Attorney General's Department considering the institution of criminal proceedings against him. And if he decide in the affirmative, launching a criminal action. There is also another instance where a person does something not with the intent of killing. I don't think we will ever find a medical practitioner entertaining the intention of killing the patient, but doing something which he knows or ought to know carries a very high likelihood of resulting in the death of the patient. That amounts to an instance of murder. It amounts to an instance of murder. So we are going beyond mere rashness or negligence. We have exceeded the threshold of gross negligence or rashness. We have come to the arena of the medical practitioner either knowing or having reasonable grounds to believe, ought to know, that his conduct or his omission is likely, is seriously likely to give rise to the death of the patient. That is an offence of murder, and the relevant definition as well as the punishment is found in these two sections that I have put up on the slide. Now, in that instance too, our law, our criminal procedure law requires us on behalf of the state to give effect to a criminal justice response. That will necessarily have embedded in it the components that I explained to you earlier on. So basically, we are not referring to a particular incident this afternoon, but when I discuss of a doctor being arrested, being produced before a magistrate, an inquest being held, police conducting an investigation, the doctor being remanded, you are likely to share in your mind what I entertain in my mind of this very recent incident in Bambalapitiya. And that is what you in fact read about all this time. The state having given effect to a criminal justice response, ostensibly on the apprehension that it was not a mere incident of professional negligence, that it was either gross medical negligence or rashness, or even exceeding that threshold, going into the realm of this offence of murder, where we are required to attribute to the relevant medical professional that he either knew or had or ought to have known that the manner in which he conducted the impugned procedure could give rise to the death of his patient. We finally come to the third component, allegations of sexual harassment by the patient against the medical professional. This is basically any form of conduct which results in sexual annoyance or sexual harassment to the patient. This is an offence in terms of section 345 of the Penal Code, and this generally involves inappropriate touching, caressing, or even utterance of certain words if it has given rise to any degree of sexual annoyance or harassment to the victim. And once again, since it is deemed to be an offence, there has to be necessarily a criminal justice response with regard to the allegation. Firstly, to determine whether the allegation is well-founded or a frivolous allegation. If it is a well-founded allegation as to who is responsible, then of course to arrest and interrogate him, initiate criminal proceedings, etc. So this is basically what I like to present to you within the confines of the limited time allocated to me, and I would in fact be available for questions. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.